Hi everyone. So what I want to do is I want to talk about the differences so far that I've noticed between the FT3D and the FT5D. Okay, first thing you probably notice is the button layout is different. Not only that, but the buttons on the 5D is a bit more brighter and more pronounced. Although a lot of people forgot that the FT3D, the buttons do light up at night. The letters do. So don't think that it doesn't have lights. It does, but they're not as pronounced. But the layout of the buttons are different. You can see the X, GX button are now put together into one. The VM button still in the bottom, but it's located differently. The A-B button seems to have gained some importance on the top. And the band button still over here on the top on the right. And you can see that on the 3D, the F menu is software-wise, while the 5D, FT5D is hardware. So that's nice. I like that. We can go back here. Back button takes a little, if you're using the FT3D, you know where this back button is all the time. So that's going to take a little muscle memory, right, for the back button on the 5D, FT5D. And then you can also see that there is a new button on the FT5D. It's the program button. Now this button is pretty cool because when you press it, you can view the frequencies that you want to continuously look at and scan. And it's really easy to place these frequencies. Apparently, I believe it's CAM, right, in the FT3D, you had to put them in groups or something and then activate the group, or there was a lot of steps so that you can view the you can monitor and view those active frequencies that you want. But this one's pretty straightforward. You find the frequency that you want and you press and hold, and then you can view them here. For example, P1 right now is the weather channel.
Around 9 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time on Tuesday.
So that's pretty neat. So that's a nice feature that that will definitely I'm going to look at more. Another thing that you've also might have noticed is the bezel here. A little bit hard to see, but the bezel definitely has changed. Some people have suggested that the bezel on these tend to get in the way when you want to like touch this side of the screen for the 3D, but the 5D, it's a little more softer, so it's easier to access the edge of the screen. And you can see also on the side here, this seems to be a little more rounder than this. And so, holding it feels a little bit more natural than this one. That's subjective. But they're looking at all the angles here. Microphone button or microphone. The microphone for the radio, you can see on the 3D there is a hole here. It says mic, and here it says that the mic is in this area. Now, one of the things about this radio, if you used it with your right hand, you might have accidentally covered the microphone. It's possible. For this one, you might cover the label, but you might not have covered the microphone. So that's different. Okay, so what else? What else is different? Consumption-wise, the FT5D consumes about on average 40 milliamps. Now this is the data sheet. 40 milliamps, you know, it's a little bit more. Turning it off I thought was interesting. I didn't know these things consumed any batteries, but the FT3D consumes 900 microamps, while the FT5D consumes 600 microamps. Is that a big difference? I don't know. If you store it for a long time, maybe. It could be. The thickness on the 5D is a little bit more thicker than the 3D. It's about 6/100ths of an inch, which that's not a lot. But if you have some type of hardware that goes around it or something, maybe it could be a different, it could make a difference. Now, as you can see, the GPS bump here is sort of gone. When I first saw this radio, I thought that was kind of like, that's kind of weird. That's, you know, a little ugly looking. I got used to it, of course, but they have definitely made it a little bit less pronounced. It still says GPS on the top there. So that's interesting. One thing, of course, is looking at it on the side view. This is definitely a big change here. The button structure. Apparently, these buttons for the 3D is, I think, modeled by the 70D or something. People like this. I've gotten used to this. I mean, when you hold it, you know where the PTT button is and the power button, and you know these other buttons, the squelch and the monitor. Well, they're there, and that was a little bit harder to discern. But the thing is, the feel is pretty well known if you've been using this radio. Now, this one though, the buttons are not as pronounced, and apparently one of the reasons why they made it this way was the preppers didn't like this ridge here. Maybe it didn't fit their bag, or you know, maybe it was just too big. I don't know. So they made the PTT button a bit less pronounced. Of course, they changed the colors of the button, and these are not the same color, by the way. This is more orangey. This is red. Same orientation. You know, PTT button, monitor, squelch, power. One thing I'm not too sure of yet is this power button. You know, when I turn this radio off, I'll probably use my ring finger to turn it off. And it just feels, you know, like I need to press on the button. Here, with this one, there's some rubber feel to it, and I can feel like I'm pressing something. It's possible because it's not protruded out. You know, if there's items pressing on it, it won't turn it on automatically. Perhaps that's why it's less profile. The profile of the buttons are less. One thing that I've noticed, and I didn't understand, but I remember reading something. This thing is a guard. This plastic thing here is guarding the wheel, right? Because if you have clothing, this will prevent the wheel to turn, which the 5D also has right here. But I've also noticed that it has it on the other side as a guard here for the antenna, I guess. So when it's rubbing on clothing, it might not turn the base. That's what I'm assuming. The FT3D doesn't have it. That's another thing too. I don't know if this rubber gasket came with the FT3D. I just don't remember. It's possible it came with the antenna to make it more secure. As for the FT5D, the feel is there's like a gasket. Looks like there's a gasket right there. It feels nice. It feels secure, especially if you're using the rubber ducky that it comes with. Okay, now let's look at the other side here. Definitely there's a difference. There's two lips here. I don't know what you would call them. Definitely two here. SD card and data, microphone, and power. That's for the 3D. And then this one seems to, and you can see there's two screws here. This one seems to be one pivot point. You have the mic, which goes there, and then you have which is different, right? Because the mic here is in the middle, so that's kind of smart. Then you can put the mic on the top where it goes to your ear for the 5D. The data is in the middle. SD card now is in the bottom, and the power is down here. One other thing that I've noticed, for example, for the SD card, you can see the gaskets are a bit different. You know, different enough probably to give it a little bit more protection. Because one of the things about the FT5D is that it is IPX7, which means it's rated that you can put it underwater for about 30 minutes and the depth of water of up to 1 meter. And one thing that I've noticed, and it might be just because the FT3D is a little bit older, maybe, I don't know. These rubber gaskets, you know, you got to make sure it doesn't feel like it snaps very easily, but they do snap. It's not like they don't. This one seems a little bit more softer and more like you feel like something's happening. Again, it might just be because this is a little bit older. These new things, these new features, right, make you think. The LED light, there's one for the FT3D, and there's two LED lights for the 5. There's the A light and the B light, which is really neat. So you can determine, you know, which band is being activated. Here, it would have been the color, the difference in the colors, which I really didn't like. Okay. So one other thing that apparently they did, and it's really hard to quantify or qualify. You know, apparently the FT5D has a slightly better screen. Some people say the contrast is better. Looking at it, I don't know. I can't really tell. It's really, really hard to say. They're the same size screen. They respond, you know, very similar. So it's nothing like, you know, it's nothing like the 2D to the 3D. Nothing, you know, where it jumps like that. Okay, Bluetooth wise, still Bluetooth 4.2, and no, you cannot use your AirPods. But the funny thing is, about Yaesu. I remember when this came out, the FT3D. And people were like, "Hey, I want to use my Bluetooth and Bluetooth set, or in the car, and this and that." And they were like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! We can't test every single Bluetooth device. You're gonna have to test it out yourself," which is very reasonable. I get it. When this came out, now it's been 3 years now, and AirPods are pretty popular, and other you know Bluetooth devices. They're saying the same thing for the FT5D. They're like, whoa, 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 whoa. We can't test all these devices. And I think what's really going on is that the protocols, they're very, very, and they mention they're very simple. The what it can do is very simple things. And apparently, there's this protocol A2DP, which has other features that seem not to work with these radios. The important thing is that you get a Bluetooth device that's properly related to Yaesu standards. I haven't noticed this, but this is white and that's yellow. That's interesting. Okay. So I thought that was a bit funny. The holster. The FT5D. For now, the Yaesu gives you two holsters, one black and this red one. I got my radio in HRO, and I thought, oh, their HRO is giving you one of these for free. No, it's Yaesu that's giving you this. And this is pretty neat. This reminds me of the time when we used to have cell phones, and we would snap the cell phone in there and then clip it to our belt or to our backpack. I think this is really nice. This, the black one, does come in the box, but this red one is really neat. So the way this works is just like if you had a phone like this. On the bottom, you cradle it at the bottom, and then here it has you have to push it down to snap it on this lip that it has on the top, and that's not going anywhere. That's really nice. It makes the radio a little bit more bulkier, but you can clip this on your backpack, and then when you're ready to speak, you just push this and this comes out. And then this, you can hold this a little bit better now. Definitely it feels better. Of course, you can always put the belt clip on this and then just hold it there. Less to worry about. Some people say, why is it orange? That's, why is that? Well, the color orange is definitely a contrast to, plants, dirt. So if you drop this, you can definitely see, there's some contrast to it. Now, will this work on the FT3D? This one? No, it doesn't, because it doesn't have that lip on the top. You can see it does have a lip, but it's in the wrong place. So unfortunately it won't work. Which is, that's pretty sad, but still, that's interesting. I might consider using this, putting it in my backpack or something. Just leave it there. Usually what I'll do is I'll carry this in my car. So maybe I should have another one for my car, right? Which I do, because they give you another one in the box. Okay, So the holster is really nice. Apparently, the holster came from the idea of the VX6, because that one also had a holster, and it flips back and forth. I really don't like that one. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of other things, and maybe in terms of software, or getting to a little more in the core of the differences, but also some things that are a bit, disappointing. For example, the radios do not have this like voice response, or it doesn't tell you. For example, there's a lot of hams that are visually impaired, and some radios now will speak to you and say you're in frequency 44775 or something. It doesn't do that. So that was, some people were saying, they wish that was available. So you never know, that could change in the future. Another thing that is a bit puzzling, but it makes sense. The box on the FT5D comes with a USB cable, but you cannot charge the radio with it. And apparently there's a lot of electronics going through that port. In particular, I believe the camera. There's a camera accessory. So you cannot charge USB, which would have been fantastic if they did, because it takes away, you don't have, well, it's not fantastic for Yaesu, because then, why do I need a cradle? But the ease of charging your radio would have been great. And that might be coming in the next version, right? This is not a full upgrade, the 3 to the 5. This is just an enhancement. But being forced by the economy and the chipsets that are not available. It's not full duplex yet, so that's gonna be a little disappointing for some people. I think moon bouncing, right? You need duplex. I'm not sure about that. No SSB. It would have been nice on FM to be SSB, on UHF, VHF, but again, that might just be, pushing the limits of the size of the radio. But I'm sure preppers would love to have that. And also when you're listening, to the 40-meter band, 20-meter band, if you can hear those sidebands. I'm not sure if you can, but definitely SSB is not available. We talked about, of course, the F menu, right? That you got to touch it on software, but not on the 5D, which is hardware. Well, that's another thing too. For going into the menu, right? You got to click and hold on display to get this back menu. On the 5D, FT5D, you got to click and hold on the F menu, and it gives you the menu that you need. APRS, changing the call sign, and so forth, and the back button. So another thing that they've done is the display of the numbers, or the color of the display. Let me see, I think it's an F menu here. And you go to display, and then you go to one of these. Where is it? Color. Display color. You can change the display color to red, blue. So that's pretty interesting. Let's say red. So there it is. It's red. Yeah, so you can notice the differences in the frequency. Is it on B? Yes, it's also on B. But if you separate the two, one is grayed out and the other one is red. So I don't know, the contrast might be a little bit worrisome during the day. At night, it's gonna be great, because at night you want less white, because you want to adjust your eyes. Another thing that is different is typing your frequency. On the FT3D, you just click on it and boom, you're ready to go. Here, I thought this was broken. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. It doesn't go. You got to click and hold, and then it goes. I don't think there's a way to change that. But I think people will appreciate that you need to click and hold to change it. Because in the field, right, if you don't lock it, by the way, you can lock it, but just pressing the button. You can do that with the 5D. But in this one, if you pick it up, you might change your frequency, right? So maybe that's the purpose for that. So that's different. Scanning is a little bit disappointing. When you go here, is it here on scan? Yeah. If you go on the F menu, if you scan here, you can see the numbers move. When you click and hold here, no, I'm sorry, when you click here, right? Let's go back. You click here, and then you go to scan. It just says, well, it's scanning. Well, that's a little bit, it's a bit annoying. Oh, that's a little bit loud, isn't it? Okay. All right, and then we're going to stop. At least that works the same. So that's a bit, I guess, I'm not sure why that's the case. Hopefully they'll change that through firmware. Okay. And of course, the biggest thing, I think, that is going to definitely be somewhat of a game changer in between the 3D and the 5D is the audio. And I did do a comparison of the VX6 audio with the FT3D audio, and there is a difference. And using the FT5D in the car now compared to the FT3D, there is a difference in audio. Again, it's all anecdotal. I will test it in the car. I'll have a camera, and then we'll see if we can hear the difference. But so far, having this in the car halfway, I can hear it. Now, yes, you can hear it on the FT3D, but it was sort of muffled. And apparently and that was because of I'm assuming because of, nobody's really stated this, but people suggest that there's some kind of covering here to protect the speaker and the microphone, I think the speaker. And also, it's the wattage is not as high. I believe it's 700 milliamps. No, wait, 700 milliwatts, right? This is 1 watt. But this one is definitely louder and clear. So I think it has a lot to do with just, that it doesn't sound as muffled. Doesn't mean that this is not any good. It is, but I noticed when I was driving the car, I wasn't able to hear it very well. And because the car is making all this noise, right? There's air conditioning, maybe your radio's turned on, the environment. Not to say this is not great. It is. But this one's just improved a little bit more. Okay, there's probably more things that people will notice as the year goes on. and I'm sure Yaesu will do some firmware updates on the FT5D. I read that FT3D, they will still continue updating the radio specifically for their XGM functions. So this is not, this is not going away anytime soon in terms of support. Of course, if you get an FT3D and if it breaks, they can still support it. Wait a minute. One thing before we go is the modification, right? For Mars. Haha. So, in the back of the radio too, here you can see that you can remove this rubber piece here, and that gives you access to where you can do the Mars modification. Battery's the same. Oh, here. Let's take this one off too. Over here you can see that the... Okay, we're going to do this again. So, okay, so this is the 3D. You can see the Mars modifications in the bottom. There's a rubber gasket there. And on the 5D, or FT5D-R apparently, the gasket over here is, you can remove this gasket, and the modification is in the middle. Be aware that you don't do these modifications lightly. You mess it up, you're probably going to ruin the warranty, most likely. But the Mars modification is available for you, it looks like. Yaesu suggests to give them a call, and then they can probably assist you and give you more details on it. I mean, they provide you, they provide an area for you to do the modification. So it's not like they don't want you to do it, but I think it's important to do the, to make sure you do it right. Maybe you should call them up. And it seems like they turn on the same rate, as you can see there. Okay, I hope that was informative, entertaining. Please give it a thumbs up if you think this information was useful for you. Please consider subscribing, and I hope to hear you in the air. So this is Frank, Whiskey Charlie, 0 Oscar.